Well, thanks very much for taking the time. Well, it's my pleasure. I'd love it if you could just start by telling us a little bit about your startup. Yeah, so it's really not as complex as you would think. Really, it goes back to my childhood. I've always had a keen eye for identifying problems and trying to find a way to simplify the solution to those problems. Whenever there's a problem, I try to solve it. And with my new solution, I'm really empowering individuals to take control and streamline with information. So that's really where the empowering element, if you will, come. Remember, is that there's a lot of use cases for this. Like I was data saying, and then figuring out how to take people on a journey that's dynamic, absolutely dynamic. You can't forget about that. And I'm just really excited to have this opportunity to talk a little bit more about it. It's visceral for them. That would, what happened? Did I die? Be excited about. That's the beauty of it, is that what you don't expect is what you should expect. Yeah, hi, honey. I think I'm being held hostage. Okay, so we're exaggerating just a little bit, but scenes like that play out all across Europe every single day as early stage founders sit down for their first interviews with journalists. We get it, it's intimidating. But being able to concisely share your startup's unique story is essential to your long-term success. And we're here to help. I recently called our friend Patricia Allen, head of content at eustartups.com, and asked her to share insider tips to help you prep for and nail your next interview. So, imagine a founder has lined up an interview with a journalist. What's the first thing you recommend they do?
The first thing is, obviously, I would say congratulations, because getting an interview with a journalist can sometimes be a little bit tricky. So first thing is be proud of yourself and now get ready. You need to make sure that you know your company inside and out, which I imagine you will do as a founder, but you need to be able to explain it in a way that's understandable and digestible. So make sure you can do it in a short format, but also get into the depth of things a little bit more. So it's kind of useful if you can spell out your company's vision, your company's mission, and what you do in as simple words as possible. Personally, I think it's a good idea to do a bit of research first. If you do a bit of research first, you can find out a little bit more about them, what kind of questions they're going to ask, what background they're coming from, who's their audience as well. If the journalist is from EU Startups, for example, where we're writing about all types of startups, and our audience is coming from the whole, spectrum, of people who are deep tech experts and people who aren't. But there's also journalists who are writing specifically for an audience that are experts. So if you know the journalist and you know where they're coming from, that can also help inform your answers a little bit, right? So for me, I think it's a good idea to do it, to just at least do the basics of knowing who they are, where they're coming from, who their audience is. A lot of founders underestimate the importance of feeling comfortable with where they are and where they're having the interview. So, it's very easy to think, oh, I'll just do this interview on the phone while I'm on the train. But maybe you don't want to talk about your startup and go into the details of what you're doing and how much money you're raising, blah, 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 when you're sitting in public on the train, right? That's maybe not the best situation. Maybe for your time schedule, yeah, it works, but actually for the outcome of the interview, maybe not. So think about if you're going to be comfortable there talking, certainly, and then go from there, from the technicalities in terms of the sound quality, video quality if it's necessary, and that you're not going to have too many distractions. If you can put your phone on to do not disturb mode, so you don't have the Slack beeping at you every 5 minutes as well, that's quite useful, because not only will that mess up the sound for the journalist, but it's also going to distract you and take you off point if you can see your inbox flashing at you and hear it as well. So you need to have that short form, snappy answer of, this is my startup, this is what we do, and this is why. And the why is really, really important. So if you can have clear your vision, your mission, that's perfect. Get to know your why, and then going on from there, I personally think it's really nice to have your inspiration. And that's something that I always ask is, okay, this is great. This is your vision statement, your mission statement, but why are you doing it? So no, if it's something that it's building off a passion of yours, or maybe it's tackling a pain point, it's really good to have that clear in your mind. And then also, if you can tell a little story or an anecdote about that is great, because that's what's going to make you stand out, make you more personable, and make the interview a little bit more special. If you can add some color to why you're doing what you're doing, that's wonderful. And I think it can create a really, really nice story. Once you have those kind of contextual details of your vision, your mission, which is the bread and butter of what you're being interviewed about, from there the journalists themselves can delve into more spicy stuff and add a bit more flavor there. So, be prepared for that, which is why I think it's important to have the short form answers, but also have in mind the long form potential for expansion into those questions. The other thing that I think is important to know, finally, is your USP. What makes you as a founder, or what makes your startup stand out and special?
What about rookie mistakes? What are some of the most common ones you see founders making in interviews, and how can they avoid them?
Yeah, I think the most frequently occurring problem really is when founders focus in too much on the technicalities, and I think that can actually come from a place of being nervous or anxious about the interview, because every founder has probably had to describe or explain their startup to somebody who doesn't understand their startup. So they're all capable of doing it. And if you've created something, chances are you are able to understand and explain it, right? But if you get too bogged down in the technical details of your startup, it can become hard to understand, especially in the tech space. There's not everybody's a fintech expert, not everybody's a deep tech expert. Like, you need to be able to explain things as basically as possible. From then, I think the other mistakes is getting too anxious, getting too worried, and then not showing so much personality as well. I think personality is a big thing, and it's super important in an interview to help it flow and to kind of also tell your story a little bit more too. If the journalist wants to know more about the technical details, they'll ask. I think, first of all, take a deep breath. Also, just have some perspective. Like, journalists are people. They were not like scary monsters out to get you. We want to tell your story. Ultimately, if we're doing an interview with you, it's to tell your story. So you have control over that. It's your story, right? So you're getting the chance to tell it. You have the narrative there. If you're nervous beforehand, address why is it you're nervous. If you're nervous because you don't know what kind of questions you're going to be asked, or what kind of themes or topics you're going to have to talk about, ask the journalist. It's no problem. We would rather ask, and then you can prepare and give better answers, right? If you're nervous because you just don't like public speaking and that's not really your jam, then you're going to have to go down the inhale exhale route and have some perspective, and look at it this way: it's just two people talking about your passion project and talking about what you're working on, which is something that you really can do anytime. If you start to lose your train of thought, take a pause, and you literally can't pause, and say, 1 second, let me just circle back, or can you repeat the question? Just be open and honest. It does happen to everyone. And then if a question comes up that you weren't expecting, or you're not really sure how to answer, again, just take a couple of seconds to think about it. There's no harm in doing that. Politicians do it as well. Like, it's public speakers right across the world do it. Sometimes questions come up that you need to take a second and you need to think about it. It's better to take a second and think about it rather than lie or make up something or go off on a tangent completely randomly and then get yourself caught in a strange loop, and maybe then another question will come up that'll really catch you out. So it's better to just take a second. And if you really genuinely don't know how to answer, or you really don't want to answer, you can also say that. You're a free person to just say, hey, I don't want to answer that question, or I need to get back to you on that with some more details. I need to check some things out, get some research for you, some stats. That's no problem as well. Yeah, I mean, for me, generally, it is okay, within reason. And I say within reason because I don't think, you should spam and every 5 minutes go, oh, I should have said this. And that's maybe taking it too far. But it's absolutely okay to send some requests and to say, hey, I forgot to say this, can I add in this? That's no problem at all. We want to tell your story and we want to tell it well. So if adding these details and these extra bits of color helps do that, absolutely no problem to do that at all. I wouldn't think about it twice. Practice makes perfect, right? That's the old saying, and it's true. Practice makes perfect. You got to get out there and try it. And you can do little practices like with your friends, with fellow team members, with family, with people you feel confident and comfortable with, to kind of get more used to how it works, and to practice being concise with your answers. That's a bog standard way to go around it. You could also read and listen to other interviews and see how other founders are going about it, and work on your confidence, work on your self-confidence and your positioning. I think, though, ultimately doing interviews, it is really a personality thing, and some people will be really good at it. Some people, it's not for them, and that's okay. Yeah, you don't have to be great at everything as a founder, and that's where it's great if you have co-founders or you have other members of the team, because maybe there will be somebody there who is really great at interviews and loves it, and maybe you don't. So maybe you work it out between your team who goes forward and takes on the interviews.
If you're looking for more communication tips, you can find the full transcript on our blog at speedinvest.com, a template to help write a press release, and tips on how to get coverage for your startup.